Hey, everybody, it's Ron Vainberg here with another edition of the Ron Vainberg podcast. I am incredibly excited to have on the program with us Sean Herrero, who is a top producing loan officer and really not only just a top producing loan officer, but he makes success simple. And anybody who's ever listened to me or watched me ever do a seminar or webinar or anything else, I love to keep things simple. And so the title of today's broadcast is Busting Through the BS. And people often ask me, where do you get the titles for your podcasts? And the irony of it is that I don't start out with a title. I have a conversation with whoever the guest is going to be, and the title of it evolves from that conversation. And so today, Busting Through the BS really came from a line that Sean said to me where he basically goes, I just want to cut through the BS. So I'm like, boom, there's a title. So Sean, welcome to the podcast. And thank you so much for being here.
No, my pleasure. Thank you for having me, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. So let me just give a little bit of history. And Sean, I didn't even tell you this yet, so I was saving it for the podcast. I saw you for the first time speak at the Mastermind Summit in June of last year. And I don't even remember if it was before. I think it was after I had spoken. And I was just out there in the audience doing my thing, hanging out. And I see you get up with the baseball hat back. And I'm like, okay, who is this young wise ass with his hat backwards? Because I didn't even know who you were. And I'm like, oh God, here we go. We got, one guy who's going to get up there and be all full of himself. And then all of a sudden you started talking. I'm like, okay, let's not judge a book by its cover. And I literally just started sitting down, started taking notes. And I'm like, okay, Ron, you should never, ever think like that again. So Sean, you literally won me over in about 90 seconds from when you got on stage. So I thank you for that. And you kind of just gave me the bitch slap that I probably deserved.
Dude, I appreciate that. I did the same thing at Momentum Builder last year. Todd Duncan, I was like, no, nobody cares. I took 3 pages of notes from him, right? And it was like, Sean, like, leave it at the door. Who are you to make those comments, And that wasn't Mastermind. I did not do well that day that you saw me. So I'm glad I'm even here.
Well, you did do well. And obviously, we both know Matt very well, and he introduced us as well. So, it's a pleasure. So welcome to our audience. It's the beginning of 2024. And before we got on camera here, Sean and I were just talking briefly, and I mentioned that everybody was coming to the end of 2024, and rates had improved, and there's always optimism around the end, the end of the year and New Year's resolutions, which I don't even believe in. And here we are, 3 days into the end of 2023. And here we are 3 days into 2024, and the bond market has yet to cooperate on a single day, 3 days in a row. And all of a sudden people are like, oh crap, it's just another year. And I always just tell people, I go, January 1st or January 2nd or New Year's, nature doesn't know that it's a new year. We know it's a new year. We can change whatever we do on any given day. So regardless of rates do. So when Sean and I were just talking about this, he brought it up and he goes, Ron, I'm one of the only, if very few. In fact, Sean, why don't you tell everybody what you said to me when I brought this up?
No, yeah, I said, I don't care. I don't care what interest rates are. And I didn't care last year either. And I won't care moving forward. And I love that you said that the market doesn't know it's a new year. Rates don't know it's a new year. We humans are the only ones that have that, which is why I hate New Year's resolutions too, because everyone goes, as soon as the first rolls around, I'm going to change. It's like, why do you have to wait till the first? Like, if you already know you want to do something different, just start now.
Exactly right. So when we started talking about doing the podcast or what have you, you said something to me, and I'm just looking down at my notes here, but you had said something to me that one of your missions is about helping people overcome their thought processes and cut through the BS, which is where the title of this came from. What does that mean?
I realized that people have a lot of reasons why they don't accomplish what they want to accomplish. And if we just take last year, we had the market. Oh, there's so limited inventory because majority of homes have interest rates under 4%. So there's just no homes for sale. So that's why I'm not doing well. Oh, the interest rates are high. That's why I'm not doing well. And then we look around the industry and there's plenty of people doing well. And so my thing has always been, if them, why not me? And Our reasons for why we don't do well are excuses. And that's how I want everyone who's listening to look at it is as soon as you give yourself a reason for why you're not where you want to be, relabel that excuse. And as soon as you change the wording of that, you'll get mad at yourself and you'll find a way to get to where you want to be. So that's what it is. It's like, I've been doing this a long time. Mortgage advisors were my clients for a really long time. Everyone's like, Sean, how'd you do what you did so fast? Like, you guys can all do the same thing. I'm not special. So no more bullshit. Like, let's do this.
And you just talked about changing the word, and I'm all about changing words. Give our listeners an example of a thought process or a language that they would use with themselves that you would say, okay, well, you got to change that language. So give an example, maybe something you even did for yourself at some point in your career.
Yeah, I'll take fourth quarter of last year. So fourth quarter, what do we all say? We all say, oh, it's the slowest time of year. There's not really a lot of homes selling. That's why it's going to be slow. Those are the things I've told myself to justify why I wasn't doing as well, helping as many families as I want to in those years. It wasn't my fault. It was just there's not enough to go around. So last year I said, I'm not doing that anymore. There are transactions happening in the fourth quarter, and I'm going to do everything to make sure I'm a part of them and someone else isn't. And that's a competitive way to look at it, but that's the truth. And we crushed the fourth quarter. I think we did better in the fourth quarter because I chose to change my mindset than we did in even the second or third.
And what would you say your mindset was in the second and third? Because you just talked about how you just changed your fourth quarter from what it could have been to what you created out of it. So what was your mindset during the second and third quarter?
Well, second and third this is the time, right? March to August, that's when we make all our money. That's what everyone says. Oh, it's feast or famine, all this nonsense about the mortgage business. And these are all things I was thinking about last year for myself. So you look at February to August as the season for making money. And we just have to make sure we're good January, February, September, October, November, December, right? Well, why? Why does it have to be peaks and valleys? People kept saying to me, well, the mortgage business is always peaks and valleys. I don't want it to be. It doesn't have to be. I'm not saying every month is going to be exactly the same, but I'm not willing to accept that this has to be peaks and valleys anymore. And that's what it was. So coming out of summer and, we're still, interest rates are where they are. It's like, okay, we're getting into the slow time. Not for you, Sean, not anymore. That's an excuse. You're not doing that anymore. And that's what I chose to change.
I actually wrote down, and I'd love your comment. I was doing a coaching call, or I was doing something. It was last week, and I said this on a coaching call to someone, and I said, you can correlate the difference in people's production from high producers who don't make excuses, middle producers who make some excuses, and bottom producers make the most excuses. Love to hear your thought or comment on that.
I think that's spot on. I don't want it to be that way, but I started originating in 2017, left being, I was a wholesale rep, and I did business development for a mortgage company, and I went broke doing that because I could pour my heart and soul and ideas into other people, but if they don't do the work, I don't make any money. So I truly went broke. And in end of 2016, I said, I'm just going to go do loans. And my best friend, who's a mortgage advisor, it's like, dude, there's no way you can't do that. You're not going to make $100,000 your first year. Nobody does. Right. And I was like, okay, well, doesn't mean I can't. Right. And I was top 1% my first year. And everyone goes, Sean, how'd you do that? Right. Well, I just did what I told you guys to do. That's where I say excuses. Like, we're giving ourselves excuses for why we can't. Oh, that I could do a bunch of volume if I had a big team like this guy does. I could do there's all these, oh, my loan amounts are smaller. Well, find a market in your market that has higher loan amounts. You can change these things. We feel like we're stuck within this bubble, and we have complete control of our bubble. We choose which bubble we want to be in. And so I think you're spot on, and it's a mindset thing. And that's what's been really fun for me in shifting is, when I became a mortgage advisor, I have my own quote unquote branch. I'm a one loan officer branch. And the companies that I've worked for, like, we're going to help you recruit. I'm like, you're not going to help me recruit anybody. I don't want anything to do with loan officers. And because I was jaded, right? I was like, you guys are the reason that I went broke. And that's not the truth. That's my excuse. The reason is I didn't have the confidence to take a chance on myself sooner, right? Becoming a mortgage advisor is like one of those I should have done this 10 years ago things. And I want people to learn from my mistakes. And now I want to pour back into our community now that I got that chip off my shoulder. And I want people to have that realization. And I want it to be, dang, Sean did it and he doesn't have a big team. Sean did 75 million, just him and one assigned processor. Sean, that's what I want is I want to be the example to remove those excuses from people.
And, you certainly, you anybody who's watching or listening can see, the genuinality. All right, look, I missed that year in English.
If it's not a word, make it one.
If I'm going to make it a word, at this point, we can make anything a word. I wrote down something, that a quote or something you said that I'm turning into a quote from our initial conversation. And you said, what your focus, one of your focuses, and there's a few great nuggets here, but one of them is your focus is empowering people to make decisions by providing authentic education.
Yeah.
Very powerful statement. Dumb it down for me, Ron, because everybody else probably gets it, but I don't.
Yeah. I don't like how mortgage people were salespeople, right? We provided information based on what would get us. We want the buyer to say what we want them to say as fast as possible. And I think there's a lot of things that just leave too much detail out. A pre-approval letter, for example. I mean, they get more and more generic every year. Like, ours doesn't even have an interest rate on it anymore. And I don't like that, so I tell buyers, you will probably know more than most loan officers by the time we're done working together. And I want you to be empowered to make the most confident, educated decisions. And by wanting that for them, I have to be able to provide the education. And that will be through conversations like this. That will come from, I'm a big mortgage coach guy. Everybody's going to look at all the details there. You're going to know exactly what your closing costs are. You could send me quotes from any other loan officer and I'll tell you if it's real or not. And I'll also call out like where they may be towing the line on manipulation of fees or rates, because we all know that unfortunately still happens. And that's what I mean by it. And people go, I want to do the same thing. Don't do what I do. Like, find in your heart what you feel is your way to do this job and go do it. And then you have confidence and you don't worry. I don't worry if I lose a deal, because it just means the way that I work doesn't work for that individual. And that's okay. I can't help everyone, right? So I'm just going to do what I feel is the right thing and go from there and let things fall where they fall.
As a sales trainer and coach, which is what I am, I always tell people that first of all, I don't believe in one size fits all coaching or training, which is one of the reasons why I have a team that supports me, but I don't have coaches, because not that template driven coaching programs don't work. They do, but for certain people, that's where everybody's doing the same thing. And I believe in individuality, which is where if someone's going to work with me or work with a client, whomever it is, you have to go to where they are. You don't start everybody at the same place. But what I also know is that no matter what you do, when you look at successful people, you will find things that, although they have not identified them as them being other than just me, they don't realize that they are actually certain specific influencing factors that make a difference. And you actually used one in the beginning when you started talking here a moment ago that I bet most people didn't even pick up on. And it's called a pre-frame. And a pre-frame, so I'm going to put on my coaching hat for just a second. A pre-frame is when you said, by the time we finish, you will probably know more than most loan officers that are in the business. I want everybody, if you miss that, I want you to understand how powerful that is, because that statement is not only saying what Sean's about to do, what he's also doing is he's letting people know that they have power in this process. And that automatically connects them to you, because you are handing them this belief of power. And with the authentic education, you're actually giving it to them. So a pre-frame is just such a huge, powerful strategy in salespeople. I'm going to just give everybody, because I can't always help but be a trainer and coach at heart, because that's what I am. Here's another pre-frame that all of you should be using. When you sit down with a realtor or you sit down with a loan officer, and Sean, I'd love to hear your feedback on this. When you sit down with a realtor, you sit down with a loan officer. I'm not with a loan officer, a realtor, or a referral partner. Just say these words. I'd like you to know up front that I am not like your average and typical loan officer or mortgage originator. All you have to do is just by saying that is by saying, I am not your average or typical loan officer, I'm going to be focusing more on, and then you can insert whatever else you want that's going to be your individual value prop at that moment, as where it's about you, not about the process, but about you. It could be about education, it could be about whatever. And automatically, just by stating that you are not like, people will buy into that, believing that you are not like. And the great thing is when you say it deliberately, you become that. Mm-hmm. Sean, I'd love to, because you used a pre-frame. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on what I just said.
Well, I literally used that one. Not in those words, but I start off any conversation with a home buyer or a real estate agent. If you've spoken to other loan officers, this conversation is going to be entirely different, and for good reason. Like basically what I tell them. And then I tell them what I just said earlier of, I want you to be empowered to make the most educated decisions. If it's a real estate agent, I'm going to show you how you will get more offers accepted faster and get paid faster as a result. That is kind of how I start off my conversations. And that leads to curiosity. Well, what makes you different? Why are you different? And then that's what we want. We want to create curiosity so that we have the opportunity to build trust.
What do you say when a realtor says, I already have an existing relationship?
I'll ask them what they love about that loan officer. That's awesome. Like it's very rare these days that to find someone that's committed to their mortgage partner. That's fantastic. What is it that they do for you that you love? And that's not, I'm going to find a way to sneak myself in here, right? If they're in a great relationship, wonderful. There's like law of abundance. There's enough realtors out there to make new relationships with, right? I would rather take the relationships I have and show those realtors how to do more transactions than go recruit more realtors.
I'm going to go back to what I said a moment ago, that there's always, when people are successful, there are specific strategies that are universal that work for everybody. And everybody, just got an example of another one. And just so everybody knows, other than me doing just a 10-minute get to know Sean a little bit more about his business before this presentation or this podcast, we've never spoken a word to each other. And I don't do podcasts where I say, give me 5 questions that you want me to ask you. That's not what I do. So it's a very organic. What you just did is I gave you an objection, and I said, or I gave you a challenge. I said, what do you say when realtors say I have an existing relationship? You've already shared with the audience what you say. What I want everybody to know is that the tactic that he used is he asked a question. And I always see this, and Sean, I imagine, because you see what other people do as well. Mm-hmm. I always see that the majority of LOs that struggle the most are the ones that don't really know how to ask questions.
They wait for their turn to talk, right? I'm going to go into this with all this value. Hey, realtor, I want to have coffee with you because I'm going to show you how you can triple your business. When did I say I wanted to triple my business? Why would you make that assumption of me? I don't want to. Show me how to do the same transactions and have more free time. That would have been of more interest, but you didn't ask. You just put yourself first. And that's the problem, is we can't put ourselves first. We have to put others first.
Are you suggesting that some people sell in a selfish way?
The majority. That's why some people don't like me in our industry, because I call our industry out on its nonsense. And it's like, look, if it's working for you, keep doing it that way. Like I'm just looking at our Q&A, an anonymous attendee. Like you don't even have the guts to put your own name up. And your question was, doesn't empowering borrowers so much decrease their need for you? Too much knowledge makes you less valuable. No. The fact that you can't even be on this call authentically explains to me why you would ask that question. And that was a very harsh thing to say, but I want you to question why you wouldn't put your name on this group chat where we're all trying to grow and learn from each other.
You know what? I'm actually very impressed with what you just did. It's actually something that I probably wouldn't have done. And So I applaud what you just did because I might not even have made that connection, about the anonymous attendee. And, whomever you are, okay, if you're still on, whomever you on, whoever you are, or for anyone that doesn't like what just happened, what I would actually say is before you, and I always tell people, I go, if I ever say anything that you dislike, or I ever give you a concept that you don't like, I always say, ask yourself a question. Do you really dislike it because it's just not a strategy that you would ever use? Or does it make you uncomfortable? And if you say that it makes you uncomfortable, then I always tell people when you start seeing something uncomfortable, you are being handed a tremendous opportunity to grow. So I love what you just said. I love what you just did. And I would want everybody to take away from it saying, how can I grow from this? So
And it was
that was really
uncomfortable
cool.
for me to do, right? You
Because I
have
know
this
that's not
devil
you.
on your shoulders, and it's like, I should just answer this question. I'm like, but there's more to this question because the name's not there. And Ron, to your point, if you don't like the way I do it, keep doing it your way. Have confidence in the way that you do it as long as it's working for you. Going back to when I ask realtors, hey, what is it about your current loan officer you really enjoy? I ask that question because I might learn a new tactic from somebody I've never met. Oh, they do this, this, and this. Geez, that's brilliant. I should try that and see what happens. So I'm not trying to be a jerk. I know I was, but the intention is not to be a jerk. It's to get people to be authentic. But it was very uncomfortable for me to say all that about anonymous attendee. But I felt like we'll all grow from it together.
I appreciate your honesty and you owning it. I actually see because I have one more question that I wrote down that I wanted to ask, and I know some of you are raising your hand or what have you. The best thing to do is in the Q&A, questions into the Q&A, and I'm going to go through them. I don't know that we're going to get through all of them. That was also one of the reasons why I wanted to do this podcast live, because in a recorded podcast, it would just be myself and Sean, and there's always questions that I'll never ask that will give you the answers that you're looking for. So please put your questions in there. I'm looking at the Q&A session. So we've got a question from John, which says, John, I've been making excuses. John says, I've been making excuses. And I know you, John. So I'm glad you're on the program. I've been making excuses and my low production as a result. How do we get to have a strong mindset? And do you do affirmations? And before you answer that question, I want to put my question in front of it. Sean, what motivates you? What gives you got so much energy? Okay.
Yeah.
What motivates you?
My family. Um, I grew up, we didn't have much growing up. And the mindset I was given as a child was people with money are the root of all evil. People in Mercedes are yuppies. Here's the problem, this, and this. And I grew up believing all of that. And then, I got into this business when I was 19 and I learned, well, that's not actually true. And there is opportunity for myself and maybe my family can have a better life. And I want my kids to learn what I'm learning in my 40s. I want them to learn in their 20s. And so they will be better off. But I'm in Tahoe right now. I want to be able to have these trips and do whatever I want at any time with my family. And money creates freedom, right? That's how I look at it. So my family motivates me. I'm also competitive. I do like, when at our company, they'll send us like who's in the top 10 every other day. I like seeing my name up there. Right. But not so much from a look at me, I got a trophy perspective, from a kind of going back to what I said earlier. Okay. If Sean can get into the top 10 at a company of 3,000 and all it is him, an assistant and a shared processor, I should be able to do it too. And that's really I guess that's my two things, family and giving back to this community.
That is awesome. So let's answer John's question now. So I've been making excuses for my low production. How do we get a strong mindset? Do you do affirmations?
Okay. Yeah. So I have done I like doing difficult things. I like doing things that make me uncomfortable. I started surfing because I was scared of the ocean. I started rock climbing because I was scared of heights. And I like to constantly challenge myself. And I think we've chosen an industry where we have nothing but opportunity to challenge ourselves. So that's where it comes from, as a place of, I wonder if I can do this. And it just fires me up. Right. So I think that's just my mindset. But I've it's doing mortgages and dealing with like the stress of a late closing, or we qualified this way, now the debt to income ratio is too high, a realtor yelling at me. That's not the hardest thing I've ever done. So I would say go do things outside of this industry that are difficult for you. I used to do Spartan races all the time. I signed up for one. I'd never run 2 miles. It was 14 miles. I couldn't walk for 2 weeks after, but I got to a point during that race where I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like I wanted to quit. I really did. I couldn't. There was something in me that was like, you're not stopping. And I learned a lot about myself in that race. I almost got lost at sea kayaking in the Pacific Ocean off of Santa Cruz Island in the Channel Islands at 3 a.m. when we were lobster diving and the winds and waves came up and wasn't expected. And I just remember looking behind me and being like, I don't think I'll die, but I might end up on whatever island that is back there. This isn't hard. I've been through more difficult things. And so I think that overcoming adversity is what creates the strong mindset. We all want things to be easy. I don't want an easy life. I just don't. I think an easy life would be boring. And yes, I do affirmations because I have to overcome the mindset that was programmed into me as a child, right? So the reason I think I didn't have, I would have these peaks and valleys, like I'd make money and the money would go away, make money, money go away. That was, I think, due to my subconscious programming. So every morning I spend 10 minutes getting my mindset out of what was built into me. So yeah, absolutely. I do that. Long answer. Sorry.
No, it's a great answer. And you actually just reminded me of two things where, you're challenging yourself. Yeah. I'm definitely older than you. And I work out 3-4 days a week with a personal trainer. Been doing it for a number of years. And probably a few weeks ago, I'm not bodybuilding, I'm looking into fitness.
Yeah.
And I just go to him, and my trainer, there was one time he asked me, when he goes, what did you do the other day? And I go, nothing. And he goes, okay, why? And I go, I just wasn't in the mood. Holy shit. He went off on me. He's like, you want to tell me you're hurt? You want to tell me you're bleeding out on the floor? You want to tell me that? I'll give you a pass. Don't tell me you didn't feel like doing it.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I just got called into the principal's office. He goes, no, you're not in the principal's office. He goes, I'm just giving you a reality check. And I was like, wow. I go, and I kind of realized that I do that to other people sometimes. But so the other day, we were working out, and we were lifting, and I go, doesn't this ever get easier? And he looked at me, he goes, why would you want it to get easier? And I just looked at him, and I'm like, with a blank stare, he goes, if it gets easier, then you're not growing.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, okay, checkbox, got no argument there. And then I have, one more, which is a client of mine, great client, longtime client, about 13 years of coaching him, very successful. He's still in the business because he loves being in the business, not because he needs to make the money. Not anymore. He's made his money. He's all set. But he's in Yuma, Arizona. And we were talking, and he goes, Ron, everybody's talking about working hard. He goes, I'm looking out my window. Now I'm pretty much in my office from 8 a.m. till 6 or 7 p.m. every day. He goes, I look out my window, and every day I see people out there picking lettuce from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. because they're there when I start and they're there when I leave. He goes, they work hard. He goes, I don't work hard. I just have to go to work.
Yeah.
He goes, we work the same hours, but I don't work hard. And I go, you know what? That's it. It's a really amazing observation. So, we've definitely keyed in on your motivation. You've keyed in on, certainly where you hold yourself, and how you challenge yourself. And look, I don't know, there's going to be a whole lot of people who are going to be going kayaking at 3 a.m. in, whatever. But I love how your response is, well, I'm going to end up on that island. It just might not be the island I want to end up on.
Yeah. And I paddled back. I couldn't move. Every muscle in my body was cramped, but I made it back to shore. And I didn't get lost at sea, but that's a memorable experience.
Very cool. Very cool. Got a couple other questions I want to throw at you. And then I have my one other question, which is coming, but there's a question coming. So Tyler wrote, I've always struggled with the balance between being a salesman versus an advisor. Your approach and pre-frame is more in line with my personal belief and style than any LO I've heard before and resonates strongly. How do you maintain the confidence that your approach works versus the salesman approach? Do you believe that confidence breeds more business rather than conforming to the norm? Great question, Tyler.
Yeah. So, Tyler, to that, I don't like being sold. So if I don't like being sold, why would I want to sell? Right. So, and again, for 15 years, I was a wholesale rep. I was a recruiter. I did business development. I saw what hundreds, if not thousands of loan officers do, and I didn't like it. I'm like, you guys shouldn't do it like that. You should do it like this. And I think it'll work better. And it was always very salesy, just didn't feel good to me. So in 2017, I said, I'm going to do it and I'm going to do it my way. So I didn't ever start with a salesman approach. I started with a mortgage advisor. I'm gonna call out my industry, and I'm gonna show you what they tell you. I'm gonna call out the sales, and I'm gonna help you overcome it. Is kind of the approach I took. I didn't know what a pre-frame was until just today, right? Ron said that. I'd never heard that before, but I guess I used them, right? It wasn't because a sales coach told me to use them. It's just I just did the right thing, and and I should say, doing the right thing is completely subjective, right? Doing the right thing is what feels good in our own hearts. And that's what I follow. I don't cold call. I don't like when people cold call me. So why would I cold call others? That's how I look at it, is how would I want to be treated, I guess.
So how do you build your network? You don't cold call.
Education.
Because I know that's the question
Yep,
everybody else is asking right now.
Yep.
There's probably 1,000, not 1,000, but 190 people asking that question.
Yeah. So this is not my end question here, but basically, so 2017, my best friend's a mortgage advisor. My mother was a mortgage advisor. Can't go friends and family. So where do I start? And I was a wholesale rep. I'm used to getting a lot of in front of a lot of people at once, right? I went out to real estate offices and did presentations. And those presentations were not me as a mortgage advisor, it was marketing. Here's how you can use video, right? Everyone uses video now. 2017, it was like, I was like cutting edge. Hey guys, here's how you can use video for marketing and messaging. And then I would build relationships. They'd get to know me. The mortgage side comes after. And I think part of that was, this guy's the first mortgage guy that didn't say a word about how great he is at mortgage. Maybe he's so good at it that he doesn't have to. And that's what I think the result was. So I love getting in front of a lot of people. January 17th, I have an event that I started with a couple guys. It's called the Win event. It's a Northern California event. We have it on January 17th. We'll get 100 real estate agents to that. Some I'll know, some I won't, but then I will build relationships off of that. Some people in the room will like me, some people won't, and that's totally fine. But I've always, I guess, taken a wholesale approach to building relationships.
You hit on something that, it's the core of my business. It's the core of what I teach. And that is, people always ask me, I have that first meeting and then I don't know what to do. I don't know how to follow up. And so I give this scenario. I go, first of all, when you have the meeting, what typically happens is, whatever happens at that meeting. You don't even leave with your next step in place, which is a rule of mine that you always never leave a meeting without your next step in place. But I go, here's what happens. You don't have your next step in place. So you come back to your office. Well, if I call them in 2 days, they're going to think I'm desperate. But if I don't call them in 2 days, then they're going to forget about me. No, they already forgot about you, by the way. That happened about 8 seconds after you walked out of the office, unless you gave them something really, a great reason for them to remember you.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have this internal battle where what's too soon, what's too long. And people say, well, what do I do? And I just say, stop thinking about getting business. Start thinking about what value you can give to them. I gave somebody this question. I give this question over and over and over again. Most people ask themselves, by the way, I'm all about questions. You can see Sean is about questions. And if you're wondering if you're about questions, you operate daily with questions. You just might not be asking the best questions, because you ask yourself, what do you want to eat? What do you want to wear? What do you got to do today? Where do you want to go? How do you feel? These are all questions that are going through your head all day long. And there's many others that I wouldn't even, get into. And those are questions that we just naturally ask. But when it comes to business, the success of your business is asking questions. And so I said to somebody the other day, I go, stop saying, how are you going to get business? I said, why don't you answer this question? How do you get more people to know what you do for a living? And they looked at me and I'm like, if you focus on how do you get more people to know what you do for a living, you're going to get more business. But I go, you can go by just trying to solicit everybody, or you could just keep asking, how do I create more value? How do I educate more people? How do I serve more people? How do I serve more agents? And when you just do that, invariably more people are going to be attracted to you. But even when you do all that, there are going to be certain people that are going to be haters. You don't need them in your life. Sean, it sounds to me that that's kind of like what you do.
Totally. My favorite billionaire is Yvon Chouinard, who started Patagonia Clothing. He was a dirtbag rock climber. He didn't set out to be a billionaire. He just was climbing and saw a need for something and created the product, or saw a product that existed that could be better, and he made it better. So him and his buddies would be safer or could accomplish more in the mountains. That was the reason they did that. It wasn't, I need to make a bunch of money. It was, I'm going to add value, right? I'm going to solve a problem. Their mission statement is, oh man, I forgot it. It's my favorite too, but it's create the best product, cause no unnecessary harm from an environmental perspective.
Yep.
And I love that, because it's like, create the best product. Is this something that needs to be created? We can come back to that. We can make a decision from this one sentence. What harm will we cause the environment by creating this product? Is it worth the harm? Because there's no such thing as no harm. Is it worth it? Right. And I was like, I love that they have this statement that they can come back to no matter what it is, and be like, are we doing this with what we stand for by our values? So I was like, I need one of those. 2017, I'm going to be a mortgage advisor. I need a mission statement like that. And I came up with provide the best solutions and service, make a difference in the lives of others. If I do that, I'll make money. It's impossible not to, right? And it's like, I can come back to that statement. Sean, is what you're doing right now providing the best solution and the best service? Yes or no? Are you making a difference in other people's lives? I don't have to close a transaction to make a difference in their life, right? They may not use me, but I could still have that impact. And maybe they don't use me, but they have such a good experience that they tell their friends about me. You know, that's how I approach it. And it's going back to the question about the salesman approach. Like, that is the opposite, right? That is not what we are supposed to do as salespeople. We're supposed to figure out how to make more money, how to get bigger commissions. That's what our companies want us to do. I just don't want to do it that way. And we are in a business. We've chosen a profession that's pretty awesome. We get to do whatever we want to do as long as we're compliant. You know, I get to do my thing, and it's a lot of fun, and I love it.
Sean, I mean, obviously you're all about giving, and you know, it's so interesting when you talk. You know, you talk about the story of the clothing, and you know, I'm a huge Tony Robbins fan. I go to a lot of his programs. I've been going to his programs for almost 30 years, and at this last one, I just found it very interesting because he was talking about, and you know, this is a man that just gives like unbelievably. And, you know, I've been at events of his where in a matter of 60 minutes between the people in the room, and which is where I go, and then people that are virtual, we raise, you know, over $2 or $3 million for charities, literally in an hour. One of the big ones was about human trafficking. But he was talking about something with the environment or whatever, and he said, he goes, because he flies obviously private, he owns a plane, and he's, you know, you're not going to see him on a United Airlines flight. And what I found very interesting is he goes, you know, I plant 3,000. He goes, I plant 3,000 trees a year to offset the carbon footprint of the flights that I take throughout the year. And I sat back, I'm like, wow, you know, that's just a whole different level of thinking of how can you give. And so I'm hoping is, you know, time just flies by, and I know we could be on here for the next 2 hours, that it's about thinking differently. You're not a loan officer. A loan officer is what you do when you have a file in front of you. What are you before you were a loan officer? What value can you create? What can you give? And Sean, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's pretty much the message I'm hearing from you 1,000% here. And I think everybody else is hearing as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't, and I'm glad you brought up the loan officer thing, because think about what a loan officer was at a bank. You walk into a bank, hi, I need to get a mortgage or an auto loan or a personal loan. Oh, come sit with our loan officer. They take the application, they send it to the for approval. They come back and you're done. That's what a loan officer does. Loan officers don't have value. Loan officers take loan applications. That's all they do, right? Mortgage advisors do more. So again, reframing the way that you look at yourself. If you say you're a loan officer, you'll always be a loan officer. But as soon as you say you're a mortgage advisor, you've just obligated yourself to doing more for people because you have to give advice. You have to advise. So you can't say I'm a mortgage advisor if you're not going to advise. If you just want to take loan applications and then, hopefully it goes through, stay a loan officer. But that mindset shift that happens when you say, I'm a mortgage advisor, you will do more for people purely because you shifted how you look at yourself, because you're like, now I'm obligated to giving them more.
Perfect. Guys, is this hard? It's really not hard. Everything flows from the mindset. And when you have the mindset, then the skill development, which is where I focus a lot of my time in what I do, is the strategies. But the strategies become effortless when you have the right frame of mind in your head. We got time for two more questions. So one's my question, and then one is the first one though is from actually one of the members of my Ultimate Originator program, Fanny. You asked a great question. You said, by the way, Fanny, I got your email. Just quick side note, I got your email, and I'm going to answer it I'll answer all of your questions on the next member session next week. So just wanted to let you know that I did get it. I just hadn't had a chance to respond to you, let you know that. But Fanny asked, Sean, what are your best practices to stay a top producer? Just rattle them off in bullet points, and let's go from there.
Keeping things simple, focusing Pareto principle and Parkinson's law. Work will fill the time you give it. If you say you work from 8 to 6 and you don't have important tasks to do, you'll work from 8 to 6 and accomplish nothing. Pareto principle says that 20% of what you're doing creates 80% of your results. Figure out what those 20% are and stick to them. Don't feel like you need to do what everyone else is doing. So for me, video is one of my 20%, and then realtor presentations is the other one. I tell everyone to find 3. I only have 2. I do those things. I make sure that I understand my process inside and out. Once I have an accepted offer or a refinance in process, that client experience is going to be incredible. The number one marketing tool we have is your client experience. So that's what I would say I do. And I don't worry about being top producer, because I'm not in it to beat there's a little bit of that, but a very small percentage of that. I'm in it because I want more for my family. That's why I want to do this. The more people I help become homeowners, the better my family's life is. That's how I look at it. I don't try to make more money per deal. I just want to do tons of deals and help lots and lots of families. And that will in turn help my family.
In the world, you're directly paid. If you're doing the right things, you are directly paid by the amount of people that you serve or help. It's a law of nature. And unless you're a scammer, which nobody would be on this program that would be like that. But the more clients that you put into a home, or the more clients you save money on a refinance, or the more money you make. It's really just a simple formula. In my business, the more people I coach, the more people that we serve by doing a podcast here, the more my business will grow. And it just then allows me to give more to whatever charities that I want to be part of. So to me, growth has a direct correlation to giving. And I will tell you, I didn't live my whole life that way. I spent a good portion of my life, how do I get more? How do I get more? How do I get more? And today I have found that I don't even think like that anymore. I just say, how do I give more? And I have more that's in my life than I've ever had before. All right, Sean, you ready for the final question?
I'm ready. I feel like I've already answered like 20 times, but go, let's do it.
You're going to let us know if you did, but even if you did,
Yeah.
You still have to answer this one.
Yeah.
So the final question is, you've been on podcasts, you've been on stages, you've been, you're out there because you are successful and you do it in a unique but really great way. So that's attractive to people. What's that last piece of advice you're going to give our listeners that you've never given to anybody else? You've never been asked. What's that one piece of advice that you've never told anybody before that they could take away from here to be more successful?
So honestly, Ron, your questions have already answered that. Because a lot of things you caught me. Why is this important to me? Never really thought about it that way. But if I listen back through this, there was moments where I was like, all right, there's one, there's two, there's three. Here, I've said so many things on this that I haven't said in other ones. I kind of always come back to the same thing, and I don't, because I've already answered that question numerous times in this podcast. And if I need to, I'll listen to it back and I'll find them. But my want for everyone listening to this is the sooner you decide to be yourself, the sooner you will attract the people that want to work with you, and you will be happier and better at this job. And that's really why I love doing these podcasts, is because, like I said in the beginning, I want to lead our community by example. I want the new guy that looks at the big producers that have these giant, massive teams and is like, man, if only I had that, I could do it. You can do it without all that. Like, it's totally possible. We just have to shift our mindset on it. And I think that, Ron, that's the answer to the question. Is you've pulled out more of my mindset. No one's really asked me those questions. I've never talked about getting lost at sea. I've never talked about that Spartan race. And I'm glad you asked those questions, because we're all looking for the shortcut, right? Like some of these questions are, what do I do with my database? I serve my database. That's not the why or the how. Creating adversity in your life will make you better at this. And I've never, those are my things. I've never told those stories before. And those things have led to the mindset that I have, that have enabled me to do what I've done in a relatively short amount of time.
So I can't ask for a better answer than that. I want to thank you so much for your time on here. I'm just, people are asking just a couple of questions. This is being recorded. This is going to be on the Ron Vainberg podcast, which is available through Spotify and through Apple. So you can go back and listen to the podcast. And Ultimate Originator members, the OSC members that are part of the program that you are with me, it's also going to be in the vault under expert interviews. So you're going to have that always available to you as well. Sean, I'm so grateful for you taking the time doing this. This is just another awesome podcast. And I'm just going to give you a thank you, because I know I can go on and just keep thanking you. So I'm just going to say thank you. And I look forward to our next conversation.
Thank you, Ron. Real quick before we go, I do want to answer two questions that I think it'll help people. When do I reach out to my database? Every Friday by video with an important message, period, on what's going on. And then I guess that's it. I do a loan officer one too, with just ideas, but that's basically what I do for the database.
Cool. Awesome. So you can see, ladies and gentlemen, that was an example of giving even more value. So Sean, thumbs up to you, buddy. This has been
awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, bud. We'll see you soon.
Talk to you soon.
Take care. Take care, everybody.
All right. Bye, everyone. Cheers.